Good morning, I am Kevin Price. Going to talk to you about you and your business. And as always, it seems like I got a lot to get to, so I'd like to get straight to it. A new article over at usdailyreview.com, the sister news website of the Price of Business show, has an interesting article by our first guest, Brian Ray. And he is a writer and a consultant, and wrote an interesting article about bringing some sports principles to the art of business. And you can find that article over there in the business section of US Daily Review today. And wanted to chat with Brian about it here on today's program. How are you, Brian?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. A little bit about your background, please, before we get started.
Certainly. My name is Brian Ray, of course, and I'm a consultant in the industry of IT is my primary focus, technology management. I've also done some engineering as well as some retail work over the past 20 years.
Yeah. I found your article very interesting, and I found it very apropos. I think it's something that we kind of witness happening, and you can see good teams and bad teams, and you can see a lot of that through the sports analogy. What made you want to begin to look at these issues that way?
Well, it was a good way to, many people are sports fans, so it was a good way to relate the topic to a lot of people and help them to understand how to play the game, because as we all know, business is a game, and if you're going to win, you have to know how to play like a pro.
Yeah, no question about it. So tell us a little bit about your thoughts as you developed this particular article, which is a great one. I really enjoyed it.
Oh, thank you so much. I really wanted to focus on some of the main games that are played these days and just give people the tools that they need to survive some of those things. Because if you're not ready to deal with some of those situations, they can really blindside you. And having seen some of my friends get blindsided in the past, it just really, I really wanted to put something out there that people were going to be able to relate to and be able to use every day. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. What would you say? I notice a considerable amount of this article is devoted to, the hatchet people. Talk a little bit about that. It seems like they are both deal makers and deal breakers.
Ah, yes, the hatchet people. One of the biggest issues we see in business today, and this has been reported by many media outlets, is executives and CEOs coming in and just indiscriminately chopping the staff and many of them have earned the moniker of the hatchet person. So I wanted to make people aware that, it could happen to you, and here's what to look for, some of the signs to look for, and how to be ready for it, and make sure that you have all your information set up and at your disposal and ready to go. And just be aware of, it can happen to you, and be ready.
Yeah, well, the reality is that, not only be ready in terms of preparing yourself emotionally for what could be a traumatic experience, but yes. Also, always, I've had a couple of friends of mine who are coaches, professional coaches, career and business coaches, and their advice is to always have your next job lined up before your first job ends.
Yes, that's very good advice.
And so that means you're constantly networking. You never stop networking. You've got your resume always out with various people, and you're just poised for when that happens.
Yes.
So, what are some of these? What would you say from the article are the real takeaways?
The real takeaways would be make sure that you have your information ready to go. Make sure you have all your facts, the things that you've done, the things that you plan to do, your successes, and not only your failures, but what you did to overcome those failures. Those are very important things. And make sure that you store them in any information that you have, emails, documents. Make sure that you store them safely and make backup copies, definitely, when you're dealing with things like the performance review. And as you mentioned, make sure that you're always out there looking, you're always out there networking, and be ready to deal with one of those things could happen at a moment's notice, and that way you won't be left holding the bag. Yeah,
no question about it. Well, listen, I appreciate the time. I think it's a very important topic. Kind of give us a little bit of information about you and your consulting work. about your, exactly your type of clients you like to work with and those type of things.
Oh, certainly. Well, as I mentioned at the top of this call, I do primarily work in the IT industry. I've worked with many different companies. I consulted at General Motors for a number of years, Hewlett-Packard, EDS, as well as a few retail establishments. But I really like working with people who recognize that they need to do things better, and I like to bring back a more human perspective and a human approach to business, because I do feel that we've lost a lot of the humanity in business these days.
Yes. What is the sweet spot in terms of size of companies you work with? What size businesses do you typically work with?
Well, I like to work with every kind of business. No business is too small and no business is too large, because the people there are really the ones that it doesn't matter the size of the business to me.
Brian, what website do you want to leave before we let you go?
I'm sorry, say again?
What website, just one website, so we don't confuse the audience with too many options. Which website would you like to let people know about?
Well, they can view my website, and it's also my blog on thecalloftruth.wordpress.com.
Thanks so much for being with us.
Great. Thank you so much.
You bet. When we come back, much more for you. Do want to remind you, best content here can be found over there at usdatareview.com, and you are listening to The Price of Business.